You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Business owners, entrepreneurs, and marketers, if you're ambitious and you're trying to grow, you may want to listen to this episode. With us today is Jeremy Laduke with Epic9 Marketing Outfitters. They're a full-service marketing agency helping small and large businesses grow. So with us today, Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. So typically we like to ask more about your entrepreneurial journey. What were you doing before and how was that kind of prepared you with what you're doing today?
Oh man. So I kind of walked back from immediately before to, the last career before. So before I started Epic9, I was actually working at another agency for about a year. I had to get a full-time job for insurance because before that I freelanced for a few years, and just through life changes, I had to find some insurance because I was type 1 diabetic. So I went on the hunt to find a job at an agency and worked there for about a year and a half and learned the business side of marketing, kind of running a business. And, it's more than just making fun, beautiful, creative designs. There's a lot of things that are happening that you have to be aware of. And it felt like, you know what, I think I can do this a little bit better and be better to my clients, et cetera. Obamacare came around. This is at the end of 2013. Obamacare went into effect 2014. And that was my ticket out. I was like, all right, I can get health insurance without being tied down to a job. And I jumped out and started Epic9 with the goal and the passion that was driving it, helping local businesses really thrive and grow, because I had seen so many great businesses. They either had a great product or they had a great service. They were around for a couple of years and then you just didn't hear about them anymore because they closed up their shop. Not because their business was bad, but because they just didn't know how to do their marketing. And so through just watching that happen in my own town, I realized like there's a lot of businesses out there that just need help telling their story. If they could do that better, or if they had someone that could do it for them, then you could make a huge impact in a local economy.
Oh, absolutely. I love hearing about that journey and how that gave you that passion and drive, almost like you were on a mission to now serve these local businesses because they needed the help. Like you said, they had some great products or services, but they just weren't figuring out that marketing puzzle just yet. And I think for many of the entrepreneurs, we specialize in either the product or service we sell, but we have to wear so many hats and we can't be experts in all of them. But, it's that balance between time and money. What do you have more of? What can you afford? For most local businesses, are you seeing any success with them doing it themselves? When is it time to hire out like another agency? Is there a balance that they can find?
Oh man, yeah. I feel like that's a little bit of a moving target, right? I think back when I first started, I was a one-person shop, right? Like did everything from the web design to the social media to the video. It was everything. And that made sense back then. Like you could do that, but now things have become so specialized, and also the tools and ability that just as a consumer, you can go out and do some of the things that I dreamed about doing 10 years ago. You can just go make those things happen. So I think point at which you need to say, it makes more sense to do it on my own versus hiring an agency it's almost a case by case situation. However, at this point in time, right now, as we're recording this, I would say, this might be irrelevant 6 months from now. Who knows what's going to happen with AI? I would say that mark is probably what we've kind of put it at is around that $3,000 mark, right? Like if you have $3,000 a month, it makes sense to hire out someone to manage the ad spend, maybe some social media, do those different pieces of the puzzle for you. But I would say that's at minimum. I'd say anything less than that, if you're paying someone to do it, the chances are most of your money's probably going to them and not necessarily to advertising and getting your name out there. And the less you spend, the more likely the quality of what you're getting is not going to be necessarily worth. If you're spending $500 on social media, you're probably getting $500 worth of social media management. And that's not always great. Now, sometimes you can find a fantastic, very talented freelancer that's just a whiz at all the things, right? And that just knocks it out of the park. But most of the time, it's not the case. It's worth spending some time on the front end to really build up your business to where you have a budget where you can start outsourcing these sort of things, right? I did it for myself with money. So with managing money, I think I started out on FreshBooks, maybe. It was actually this app called PayDirt. I don't even think they're around anymore, but started out on that. and did it on my own, was doing my own taxes, doing all the things until I couldn't, right? And also until I could afford to pay someone to do it. But sometimes you've got to put in that sweat equity on your marketing to get the ball rolling, unless you're starting out with some sort of investment and you can invest on the front end. Now, I'd say most local businesses aren't, but if you're in that position, heck yeah, do it. Like the faster you can get your branding and marketing, you know, rocking and rolling and really efficient, the better. But if you're not at that, if you don't have a budget for it yet, put in the sweat equity, get it going on your own until you can.
That is some excellent advice because I know for most entrepreneurs, it's finding that balance between when is it worth trying something myself? Is it working? Is it not? At what point do I then invest into the experts who know a little bit more and can help me strategize and maybe pick the right channels or the right messaging? Because all of that kind of plays a role into the branding behind a business, like the story about who they are and why people should even care about, using them. What is that importance of their branding, especially for local businesses doing their advertising? What is that importance of branding for you?
So we talk a lot about the 9 elements of epic marketing. That's where our name came from. So at the core of those 9 elements is branding. If you get the branding right, it makes all your other marketing so much easier and so much more effective. But if your branding is not great or just doesn't hit the mark, it's going to cost you more money because you're going to be less memorable. It's not going to stick well with people. And so you're going to have to spend more money on ads. Your social media is not going to do as well. Also, if you don't have a really clear, coherent brand or cohesive brand, every design, you're going to have to think through, what should this look like? How should this feel? What should this say? But if you've got a really cohesive, just thought out brand guide, it answers most of those questions for you. So you can deal with the questions that matter in the moment, and you don't have to worry about what color should I use or what language should I use. Branding is core. One of the things that we've dealt with time and time again, a business comes in and they just didn't do a great job of picking their name. Like their name just kind of sucks. I don't know if you've ever had that. You walk in and it's like, I'm Joe's Insurance. I want to market Joe's Insurance. That is just so boring. What do you do with Joe's Insurance, right? So if they can get their name down, if they've got a great visual identity, it makes the marketing so much easier. What I recommend people do when they're deciding these things, if you're out there and you're, all right, I'm thinking about starting a business, or maybe you just realize your name just isn't memorable, right? It's not connecting with people. I would say don't be afraid to be risky because there's a risk either way you go. Choose the risk that you can control, right? Because there's an unmeasurable and costly risk to being boring. So don't be afraid to be a little different. Distinct is the word that I like to use. Be distinct with your branding, and that will help you stand out and get the eyeballs and get people's attention.
I agree with you 100% that branding is really that essential core piece to that marketing strategy. And you mentioned that Epic 9. Do you mind going through what the other 8 would be of the 9? And then beyond branding, what are the top 3 local businesses should focus on of the 9?
Yeah. So I would say the very top one. So branding is core, but it's kind of related to goals, right? It's very much related to goals. And that's really where we start with is goals, figuring out what do you want to accomplish. We typically use the SMART goal acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So in the next year or in the next 6 months, you can put a number on it. What's a measurable goal that you want to achieve with your marketing? That way you can look back and you can say the marketing worked or the marketing didn't work, right? Otherwise, all you've got is just you got feelings. And if you're lucky, those feelings are great. If you're unlucky, they're not so great. And you think, oh, that marketing didn't work. But you may have had great marketing. You may have been building great brand awareness that's going to pay off in a year, but you think it didn't work because your phone didn't ring this month. And so you've got to say, all right, was my goal to get the phone ringing this month? If the phone didn't ring this month, then whatever I was doing for marketing didn't work. But if my goal over the next year to get X number of new customers, that's different, right? There's much different tactics, much different strategies there. So goals is what we start with. The next is investment. And this is kind of what we were talking about. You got to figure out, what do you have to put in? Money, resources, your talent, whether it's your personal talent or your team that you're working with. What sort of resources do you have to invest into reaching that goal? And typically the bigger the goal, the more you should expect to invest, right? So investment's huge. It really kind of helps you figure out what that goal needs to be. And then is strategy. So your investment, your goals, and your strategy are the foundation of any sort of marketing plan. So the strategy is really figuring out, all right, here's where I want to go. Here's what I have to put into it. Now, how do we make this get to here? And that's where strategy comes in. And so your strategies are really figuring out, all right, what type of people are going to be my ideal customer? What products are really going to sell the most? What should I highlight? And if you haven't went through the branding process up to this point, that can inform really what your brand should be. And your brand is really at the center of those 9. Your strategy is going to be where a lot of the front end work is. It's where you're really thinking through and developing a plan to get from just something being at a goal to having a result. And then beyond that are the more of the tactical things. So we talk about social/community. And so when I say social, don't want that to be mixed up with simply social media. Social media is a part of it, but it's really the community that you're interacting with, both online and physical. So if you're a local business, you're going to need to be thinking about, am I involved with my local chamber of commerce, or am I sponsoring things right in the world? Am I doing volunteer work? Am I doing pro bono work? How am I interacting with the community? But it also includes interaction online. Like, how am I representing my business on social media? So all of those things are going to be informed by your strategy and your brand. Your community is one aspect. The other is your web presence, just in general, your website. That has its own category, because unless you're like a restaurant or, possibly a home service business, people are going to wind up on your website, and it's probably going to be their first impression of you when they're going through that customer journey. When you're thinking about your website, in the first few seconds, it needs to make a subconscious emotional connection with your audience, so that before they even think about it, deep in their brain, they know, like, this is the company I want to use. I like these people, right? So that same feeling you get when you go onto your favorite brand's website. Like, they don't have to sell you. They don't have to say, hey, for the low price. You already know you want that thing, and you're probably going to find a way to pay for that thing. Your website is one of the best opportunities you have to really grab people's attention and pull them in. And so make it good. And then your advertising is usually kind of where most of your investments needs to go for most businesses. Whatever you have to put down here, the dollar amount there, most of it's probably going to go into advertising. So having a set number that you're dealing with from year to year or month to month, knowing what that is, really helps you determine, what can I do with my advertising? And we recommend figuring out what level of the funnel you can spend money on, and having something at each level. So having some brand awareness, having some lower funnel Google search ad things, having some mid funnel tactics in there, but having something at each level of the funnel helps those dollars really be effective. So element number 8 is measuring and analytics. So if you're not measuring, if you're not keeping track of things, you're never going to know what's working and what's not. So measure as much as you can. Some things are just not going to be super measurable, and that's okay. I think in the last 10 years or so, the marketing world has done itself a disservice by saying, like, everything has to be measurable. You have to know the price of every click, and you need to be able to know how much it costs to get every single customer. And that's just not the way marketing works at its best. It's good to know some of that some of the time, but it's impossible to know what drives every decision everybody makes. And so some of it's going to have to be just great brand awareness and creative and just earning a spot in people's memory. But some of it's going to be, oh, yes, you had a specific ad that got a lot of clicks, and you can measure that. And then the last element, and this is where it all comes together, if you don't have results, then it's hard to call your marketing ethic. So you may have to go through that whole process as you measure things and figure out, all right, this is working, this isn't. You may have to go back and readjust your strategy. You may have to go back and change where you're investing your resources to get you to that peak.
That is fantastic. I know for businesses, it's trying to understand where should I invest my time and money into. I love that you go through the strategy behind everything, and that you're using tactics within each stage of the funnel. Just as you mentioned, the results and the analytics, sometimes things just can't be quantified in that way. It's that brand awareness, understanding what they felt or why they needed that at that moment. We try to understand as much as we can, but sometimes marketing is just a series of experiments. You take them through those 9 points kind of sound like the scientific method. And once you come back to it, you do another experiment until things work. From your experience, what is one thing that you wish you knew sooner? If you could tell your younger self when you were starting in business, one piece of advice to help you get further along.
So I kind of do two, one that's related to marketing and one that's unrelated to marketing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just the general business advice, I would say, figure out what makes you money and be 100% honest with yourself about where your money comes from, and look and put it on paper and say, this is making me money, this is losing me money, and make the hard decision to either fix this over here that's losing you money or cut it out. And so, yeah, I'd say in my 10 years, I have learned that the hard way, and before you invest a whole lot into it. The marketing side, I would say, back to the branding thing, it took us 5 years, almost 6 years to really figure out our branding. And I wish it hadn't, but it was the cobbler's kids have no shoes, or, it's that sort of thing where, I just jumped in doing marketing for other people, and you kind of work on your own marketing and your own branding here and there, just a little bit as you go. But once we really identified our brand as Marketing Outfitters, that's our full name, Epic 9 Marketing Outfitters, it kind of just paved the way for a lot of what we designed and all the content we created. Because we know we don't have to answer these questions about like, what should we do to make this us? We know what to do. We do it mountain themed. We do it climbing themed because we are marketing outfitters. We help people conquer their marketing mountains. We get them the best path and the right tools to get up to the top. So once we really figured that brand out, it made things so much easier, but it took a long time. If you're sitting there and you're thinking, I know my brand isn't great, I want to change, the sooner you do it, the better it'll be. And it's hard. Like when I first started out, we had this cool dragon. I thought I had it on my coffee mug. I still got some of the old coffee mugs from when we first started out. The dragon morphed into more of like an anime dragon. It was still cool, but it was a little different. I remember the day, and we all kind of joke about it as a team, like the day that we killed the dragon. And I said, the dragon just doesn't work for us anymore. And so we had to kill the dragon. We went to Marketing Outfitters, and yeah, the rest is history.
That's a great story. And it's so true. Even as marketers or branding experts, we even often forget to look at our own business and what we're doing. And sometimes we are just kind of experimenting and see as we find our identity down the road, as far as like who our ideal client might be and what does our brand represent. These are things we're all just kind of figuring out as we go. So it's nice to hear from you, Jeremy, that you also went through that and have had similar experiences, because that's, I think, just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
So now, Jeremy, was the branding the big piece that was like this turning point for you? Or what have you been doing that's most effective for growing and leveling up your business?
Great question. Yeah. So as a B2B, we depend on a lot of our new business from our sales team. And so we've shifted in the last few years our target audience, who it really is our ideal customer. And we've made some business changes that have kind of changed who we're going after. And really, it's a level of investment with us. And we've really had some hard conversations, and we say we really love small businesses and local businesses. But as a local small business ourselves, we can't survive servicing them solely, right? And so we've had to say, all right, we've got to really figure out a plan to go after some larger businesses and businesses that have a little more revenue so that they can afford a larger marketing budget. That's really been a process in sales, which I think sales and marketing are kind of two sides of the same coin. I feel like what we've been doing for brand awareness in our own marketing really sets our sales team up for success. But we've also been trying to figure out, how do we get in front of and get warm leads into the decision makers of the businesses we're trying to attract. And that's been a learning process with a lot of trying and failing and trying 5 things, winning, but we're getting there. But it's really a matter of figuring out, how do you get in front of these people that they're not coming to the local chambers. They're not going to the BNIs, right? They've got people maybe doing that, but the decision makers you want to get in front of, you've got to find different ways to do that other than just bombarding thousands of businesses with cold emails or just flat out cold calling. Nobody appreciates that. Nobody likes it. Just stop. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're just sending out thousands of cold emails a day, just stop. It's horrid. I don't, sorry, Chris, if you advocate for that.
Not at all.
Eh,
No, I think
Okay.
there with any tactic, with any tool, there's pros and cons to it. And it's the way you use it or abuse it that can either give people a positive feeling or negative. Cold outbound email can work in some aspect, personalized that it can be the better chance for reply rate. I don't advocate for mass blasting. You want something that's at least a bit personable, something that either offers tremendous value to them or something free first, and don't annoy them. A simple 1, 2, 3 touch points can be fine. Again, B2B, only 3% are in the market, even ready to buy. Even less are going to be problem aware, solution aware. So you got to take time with these business prospects. Just like you said, it's the audience and you're trying to figure out where they are. Where do they hang out? They're not hanging out at those networking groups. They're kind of sending proxies and assistants there. So it's a different strategy that we use for ourselves versus what we would for clients, because most local businesses are typically B2C, right? The ones that you work with mostly, are they generally
It's,
B2C like the local?
I
Is it
don't know.
kind of
It's
a
it's
mix?
a mix. Yes, we've got several B2B clients that are local businesses, but I would say just in general, your B2C is a lot more. But for us, I think the takeaway from that is your marketing really needs to help set up your sales team. Like your marketing is kind of painting the background so that when your sales team shows up and makes the phone call or does whatever, that person can say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of you. I've heard of Epic Nine. Yeah, sure, let's talk." Or you guys do XYZ, or you helped this client over here. You sponsored this nonprofit event that I went to, and blah, blah, blah. So it really sets the stage for their success. But yeah, I would say in the recent past, figuring out the best things to do as we're transitioning our ideal target has been the best of times and the worst of times.
It's a fun journey and so many unknowns, things you're trying to figure out, but enjoy the journey because the destination, it's going to come to you quickly. And who knows what sort of reinvention or new offer, new ideas you might be bringing to the table or changing things as you go. It's just the fun part of it. Now, Jeremy, for those who are interested in learning more about Epic Nine, connecting with you, where can they find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Epic Nine, you can find us at epic9.com. I kind of live on LinkedIn. That's really the only social media platform that I'm super active on. So I'd love to connect with folks on there. Shoot me a message or a connection request on there. Also, do want to mention Climb, the book. So just released it this year. The full title is Climb: The Risks and Rewards of Elevating Your Brand, and it's really a marketing trail guide for local businesses. And it was really a way for me to kind of get back to my roots and help local businesses. So it's kind of a DIY guide. Like if you're out there and you're thinking, how do I rein my marketing in? How do I understand what I need to do next? It's a way to understand the principles that you need to apply to your marketing, but also it walks you through an actual story of someone who is running a downtown local business. And it shows you how they apply some of the principles. It's the story of a book and toy store shop that is having to rebrand and breathe some new life back into this business that's been around for a while. And so it shows you some really good practical ways that you can implement. It also helps you understand the language of agencies. I don't know if you've probably had clients come to you and complain that they worked with another agency and they would just throw out words to them, ROI and CPC and CPM and CAC and all these acronyms and whatnot. If someone's trying to figure out how do they talk to a marketing agency, it's a great resource with some info about that as well. So if you can find that at theclimb.guide. We're getting ready to launch an online local marketing mastermind group. And if anybody wants to sign up for that, they can go to theclimbclub.com for that.
Oh, that's fantastic. And we'll also have links available down in the show notes and the description. I love that you are putting resources out there for local businesses just to help them kind of make sense, have a map to understand how to navigate the trails. And the fact that you put it within a story is even better because I know people love to hear about real life experiences with business owners. So for you, Jeremy, what are you most excited to wrap up 2024, 2025? Are there any new products or initiatives that you are undertaking or Epic Nine is undertaking? Anything that you're excited about and want to mention here?
Yeah, I'm really excited about is getting the Climb Club launched. And so that's happening very soon. And I think that's going to be a pretty significant game changer for a lot of small businesses that are part of it. So we're in the process of creating content for it and different guides, everything. Someone wants to start their own Google ads and get those running on their own. Like, how do you do that? If you want to figure out some good nuts and bolts tactics for social media, it's going to be a resource for that. So it's going to be, when you're in that just starting, I've got a lot of time and energy to invest, but I don't have a lot of money. It's going to be a great resource for you.
That is fantastic. I'm excited to join if you're allowed to have me. And for
Great.
other business owners who want to connect with other like-minded business owners, understand a little bit more about marketing strategy, what's working for other local businesses, what isn't, just so they can kind of stay on top of the trends. And again, like you mentioned, that one of the pillars is the community. Create that community where they can share the resources and tips and tricks. And then suddenly you have a big group who already knows you, likes you, trusts you, and everyone helps each other out, which is what this entrepreneurial journey kind of feels like it's all about. Just building connections and helping each other grow.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you sharing your tips and tricks with us today. Congratulations on all your success in your journey. And we're looking forward to hearing all about your future success as well. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris.